Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Rogue Trader with me, Bragadon. Before we head to the Cenobium, I want to go talk to Cassia about Pascal.
Words cannot describe how boring the bridge is without our stimulating conversations. The esteemed Magus Hanuman is shattered like a beautiful stained glass window into a mosaic of colors. His bright, beckoning hues are mixed together in complete disarray. I must confess, it perplexes me. Normally, scarlet and steel are all that fills the heart of a servant of the Omnissiah. I have enjoyed your company. Thank you for the conversation.
Let's also check in with Adira and see if she can divine anything for us. When Adira sees you, her lips curve into a smile as she nods at something over your shoulder. You seem to have a very strong reaction to what Argenta said by the broken lens.
It was just my nerves playing up. Something about our little saint doesn't sit right with me, and I trust my gut. Oh sure, she seems straight as an arrow and as predictable as a hangover after drinking. But when I look at her, something about her makes my brain itch.
Adira snorts, but then she frowns and continues more seriously.
After that conversation, I tried to listen to what was being said about her. Beyond the door, what I heard was strange. Blood in her past, twilight in her present, and something like a star leading her. But where is it leading her? I saw several roads, and all of them frightened me.
Adira adds in a murmur. And what does it all mean?
If I knew, I would have told you. Hearing things clearly requires cooperation from the other person, you know. But that cobra just hisses and spits its venom at me. I don't trust her one bit.
Maybe we should warn Argenta.
Oh yeah. You go ahead and tell her the wicked Psyker has divined something about her. She'll be so pleased and grateful, and of course she'll listen to what you have to say. No, that would be pointless. And anyway, I'm not even sure what it all means. Maybe the danger is to her? Or maybe the danger's coming from her.
Adira's voice is full of animosity. We also detect concern, even a hint of pity and compassion.
Of course. Always at your service, whenever you need me. All right, let's hear what they're whispering about you. Hmm? I'm sorry, Lord Captain. The voices are going wild. I can't make out a thing. I'll try to rein them in, somehow. But for now...
Adira strains to listen, then frowns and shakes her head. The Psycho shrugs sheepishly and sniffs.
Of course. Always at your service, whenever you need me.
Well, let's go talk to Argenta.
Greetings.
Even in stillness, Sister Argenta radiates energy. With her dark eyes shining and a slight blush to her cheeks, she's reciting a prayer. Looks at you only once she has spoken the final line. Alright, to the Electrodynamic Cenobium. We'll cover the landing area, your lordship. Glory to the Von Valancius dynasty. Hey, glory indeed. Lay people unworthy of entering the hallowed cenobium humbly said their prayers next to this computational altar.
Keep your wits about you. Is there money to be made?
That wasn't so difficult.
Judging by the dead people's equipment, they were the same wardens the governor sent to the monastery's aid.
I won't let it define me.
The sacred statue has been shattered into pieces at the hands of the blasphemous heretics.
I always have a backup plan. Always keep your eye on the prize. Let us not dawdle.
Open the gate. The binaric hymn awakens the gate's latching mechanism. The heretics were killed swiftly and ruthlessly, and never had time to reach for their weapons.
I always keep my options open.
Glory be to the current of the motive force. May its dulcet light shine in our new sphere, spheric coronas. May its vitality nourish our augments. May its purity wash over our imperatives and engrams. A mercifully quick electric shock was not what killed this cultist. His face is contorted in pain as if he was tortured.
Keep your wits about you.
You note that wire junctions are often marked with the symbol of a key that appears to connect two lines. There are no wounds on the heretic's body, but his face is contorted in terror, and his eyes are bloodshot from ruptured vessels. As far as I am aware, the monastery supplies power to several major hive cities on Rykad. Hidden somewhere in the depths of this building is a reactor of monstrous, unfathomable power. Gosh, can't talk.
I always have a backup plan.
That looks like it'll shock us.
I'm not satisfied with that answer. I will repeat my question again. The last Electro Priest you killed, where did you find? Burn in the fire of dawn, servant of the cook! And another one meets the limit of his utility. The last of them.
And this must be the Inquisitor. The tall, dark-haired man sizes you up with a quick glance. A supernatural chill is making the air around him crackle softly. The expensive fabric of his jacket is stitched with gold thread and marked by several reddish-brown stains. A foresword and a vox hang from his belt, and the emblem of the Holy Inquisition glitters on his chest. You try to focus on the man in front of you, but you cannot shake the image of the deadly torture he inflicted on his victim. Your pulse quickens, blood pounding in your ears and sweat beading on your skin. Interrogator Van Calox, I presume.
Yes. Since you know who I am, and are in no hurry to kill me, I infer that you serve the Emperor, not his enemies. Allow me to introduce myself. Interrogator Heinrix van Calox of the Imperial Inquisition's esteemed Ordo Xenos. With whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
The man turns away slightly to clear his throat. The room starts to get noticeably warmer. The Ordo Xenos. So he's not here for the heresy, specifically.
Shadow. A great big sun-eclipsing, chain-weaving shadow. I can see the threads, myriads of them extending toward us all, and all of them creeping off toward him like snakes, shrouding us in poison. My, oh my, do I sense trouble, and it's right in my throat. It itches.
Adira recoils from the interrogator as if scalded, starts swaying to and fro. A puff of black smoke comes out of the psyker's mouth and dissipates at once.
A psyker? Interesting. And a diviner at that. Even more interesting. Are you sanctioned?
Heinrix eyes Adira keenly.
Don't you Inquisition me! I'm under the rogue trader's protection!
Adira looks at you pleadingly. Adira is a member of my personal retinue, and is under my protection.
Your retinue, you say? Then let's go back to my previous question. With whom do I have the honor of speaking?
The interrogator rests his intent gaze on Adira for another moment, before shifting it to you. Rogue trader Donald von Valancius.
Von Valancius? To the best of my knowledge, that dynasty is headed by the esteemed Theodora von Valancius. Has there been a change of circumstances?
Henrix watches your expression closely. Theodora is dead, slain in battle by enemies of humanity.
The news is lamentable. My condolences. And I presume the heir to the sacred warrant of trade and the lofty title of rogue trader is none other than yourself. Well then, what precisely has brought you to the sanctum of the Omnissiah?
Point to the corpse. What did you do to him?
I convinced him to cooperate. I can influence living bodies, and I find that the interrogated are much more eager to share information once the blood starts to boil in their veins.
Heinrix bows his head, cracks his neck, and grimaces. I'm here to collect you. I'm under orders from the Lord Inquisitor to offer any assistance you may require, after which I'm to provide you safe passage to footfall aboard my ship.
Then the timing of our meeting is fortuitous. I am requisitioning you and your retinue for my task.
Heinrix ruminates silently on what you've told him. Then he makes a of satisfaction and says,
Requisitioning? Young man, your choice of words is unseemly to the point of insult. You're addressing a rogue trader.
Abelard is left speechless for a moment.
I don't imagine you'll be any happier if I say taking into Inquisitorial custody.
Heinrix casts an apprehensive glance at Abelard.
To aid his faithful servant in the fight against corruption is the solemn duty of all whose actions affect millions of the Imperium's subjects. Let your example guide those who will carry the Emperor's light across 1,000 stars.
You are familiar with the works of Inquisitor Alistar the Redeemer. Not every acolyte can say the same, let alone people less initiated. Please forgive my lapse in manners, Lady Navigator Orselio. It is a great honor.
Heinrix arches an eyebrow, examining the coat of arms on Cassia's clothes.
I came to Rycad Minoris on a mission, which a rebellion prevented me from fulfilling. The governor is convinced that malcontents from among the rabble were the instigators, but I immediately suspected a more sinister presence at the root of the mutiny. My visit to the monastery and a few unhurried conversations with some of the rebels confirmed my suspicions.
Heinrix glances at the dead body at his feet.
Someone by the name of Aurora is leading the rebellion. Data indicates that the head of the cultists is here right now, in the sanctum of the ancient reactor. Given the prophecy of the Final Dawn, and the special efforts made by the enemies of humanity to seize the monastery, their goal is to gain access to the holy power source's control circuit and trigger a process that, once started, cannot be stopped. In other words, to detonate the reactor, thus being themselves the cause of their much-touted Final Dawn.
Blasphemous insanity.
The tech priest's visor flashes and turns a bloody scarlet. A soft hum of some activating systems is heard from under his robe. Precisely what were you doing at the monastery?
I arrived here with an escort squad, only to lose it in our very first open skirmish. The monastery is swarming with heretics. The soldiers I requisitioned from the governor fell in battle, bled to death, or deserted. I had to make do with catching and forcefully interrogating individual rebels. It is from them that I learned what I relayed to you just now.
I can help you with Aurora. Let's join forces.
Thank you. Regrettably, the governor's people showed themselves to be unprepared for the perils of this place. And extracting blade shards from a person's stomach is beyond my powers. I hope that a rogue trader's retinue will prove more capable than a group of soldiers fresh off the base.
The interrogator glances at the limp body clad in the colors of the governor's wardens and sighs briefly.
I am positive that not all of the electro-priests within these walls have perished. The heretics spoke of shadows emerging from side alleys to make short work of the cultists invading their abode. I surmise that the entrance to their hiding place is somewhere in the hall near a machine known as the Circular Cogitator. I imagine it's one of the local sacred relics which the electro-priests treat with special piety.
Well, let's kick out the unsanctioned psyker and bring Heinrix along, of course, and Cassia.
Remember, innocence proves nothing.
Interesting. He's not dogmatic. We've seen all of these because Abelard is also a warrior. He has Word of the Emperor. All allies in a circle within a 5-cell radius gain +1 resolve until the end of combat. Every additional stack of this effect increases the resolve bonus by +2. And Iron Arm. The target gains +10 strength and toughness until the end of combat. Defensive maneuvers. I don't think... Yeah, Abelard does not have that. When the warrior takes damage, they gain +% dodge. Stacks up to 3 times and resets after a successful dodge. Yeah, it's odd he's a Ordo Xenos. So there's three main orders to the Inquisition. You have the Ordo Xenos, you have the Ordo Malleus, and the Ordo Hereticus. I would have thought to find Ordo Hereticus here. He has Sanctic Powers. A concentration of faith, Sanctic Powers are used by pious psychers to protect allies and smite heretics. We've seen most of these other talents. Biomancer. Biomancy. So biomancers specialize in manipulating biological energy and processes with the power of their minds. They are masters of the flesh, learning to shape and influence their own physical forms according to their will, as well as those of their allies and enemies. Note, damaging psyker powers count as weapon attacks, counting toward the normal attack limit per turn, and gaining all the benefits of abilities and talents increasing the damage of attacks. For example, a soldier using the run and gun ability will be able to use damaging psyker powers twice per turn, and an operative's analyze enemies ability affects the damage of damaging psyker powers. And biomancy. Biomancy focuses on manipulating living flesh and biological processes. Biomancers can heal wounds and alter physical characteristics, which is where he gets Iron Arm from. And his flagship post ability is Leaking Ether. Enemy void ships suffer warp damage when being jumped through using Shallow Jump. So Coercion was his first skill, then Endure, Daring Breach, and Defensive Maneuvers. He gets a talent and a characteristic. As I'm going the tank route with Abelard, I'll probably make Heinrix more offensive, but I still think Thick Skin is worth grabbing first. It's just too good. Now, we also have the Biomancy talents to look at. And the Sanctic talents. So Destined, the Psyker's armor increases by 5%. This bonus increases by 5% at the start of every round of combat except the first. Edge of Dawn. Enemies adjacent to the Psyker suffer 10% more damage. Eternal Glory. The first time the momentum reaches 200 during the Psyker's turn, the Psyker gains +5 to all characteristics, +1 to resolve, +1 to deflection, and +1 to all damage that the Psyker deals until the end of combat. Hymns of Hatred. Critical hits scored by anyone within the Psyker's line of sight, including the Psyker themselves, increase the Psyker's critical damage by 1% until the end of combat. Psalms of Heroes. The Psyker's psi rating is increased by +1 until the end of combat every time an ally uses a heroic act. A Sanctified Slayer. The Psyker's critical hit chance is increased by resolve %. Ready to Serve. When an Imperial World character is affected by an ally's non-damaging ability or affects an ally with such an ability, their resolve is increased by their fellowship bonus divided by 2 for 1 round. We've seen that before. Oh, that's right. Stumbled into the Imperial World talents. Still Mind. The Psyker's resolve is increased while Veil Degradation is 10 or lower. Inscribed Soul. The Psyker gains the Inscribed Soul ability. It costs no AP but deals direct damage to the Psyker equal to 25% of the Psyker's maximum wounds. The next psychic power used after this ability will not trigger psychic phenomena or perils of the warp, and will not degrade the veil. Sacred Rituals. Psychic powers have a 25% chance to regain AP spent on psychic powers when veil degradation is 10 or lower. Blade of Light. Force weapon attacks deal more damage and have % more armor penetration. Enforce Reality. Usage of a heroic act by the Psyker decreases veil degradation by 3. Psychic Barrage. Whenever the Psyker uses a damaging psychic power on targets that are 6 cells or farther from the Psyker, the targets suffer an additional 3 damage. Second Sight. The Psyker's psychic powers that have a range of 2 cells or more have their range increased by +3. I think we've actually seen most of these, right? Or some of them. Adira had some of these as well. Stabilizing factor. The first psychic power used each turn increases Veil Degradation by 2 points less. This talent reduces the effect on Veil Degradation to less than 0. Veil Degradation is instead decreased by 1. Subtle Manipulation. The Psyker can use damaging psychic power while being threatened by enemies in melee range without provoking attacks of opportunity. Non-damaging psychic powers do not provoke attacks of opportunity even without this talent. Obscured Threat. The Psyker is not in the target's line of sight, or the Psyker is in cover. All resistance tests of the target suffer a penalty. Adrenaline Surge. On the first turn of every combat, all psychic powers of the Biomancy discipline cost 1 less action point. Biophysical Distortion. All the Psyker's attacks, including attacking psychic powers, now poison enemies. This poison deals toxic damage at the start of each of the enemy's turns. Sanguine Siphon. Every time the Psyker deals damage, they gain +1 stack of the Sanguine Siphon effect. If that damage was dealt to a target adjacent to the Psyker, they gain +2 stacks instead. When the Psyker suffers lethal damage, the stacks of Sanguine Siphon are removed to reduce this damage by -1 for each stack, until either all stacks are removed or the damage is no longer lethal. Confer Immunity. Whenever the Psyker is healed or heals an ally, if the character being healed is already at full wounds, that character instead gains temporary wounds equal to the healing. These temporary wounds do not stack. Corpus Conversion. When an enemy adjacent to an ally dies, that ally gains a stacking Corpus Conversion effect. If multiple allies are adjacent to the dead enemy, one is selected at random. The Psyker's next psychic power that targets only the target with Corpus Conversion will work as if the Psyker's psi rating is +2 higher, will not degrade the Veil, will not trigger psychic phenomena or perils of the warp, and will remove -1 stack of Corpus Conversion from the target. Pulse of Life. Whenever the Psyker heals themselves or another character with a psychic power or an effect applied by a psychic power, this healing can critically heal with a chance of whatever percent. This critical heal chance is increased by all the effects that increase the critical hit chance, and the amount healed is increased by the same value as critical damage. Strange Vitality. When the Psyker's allies of the Psyker themselves are under the effect of psychic powers, they gain +5 toughness for each of such effects. Deterioration. Whenever an effect applied by the Psyker increases the damage suffered by a target, this effect is increased by half. For example, a 20% increase becomes a 30% increase. Like I said, I'm going to go with Thick Skin, because I think it's just too good to pass up. And then Weapon Skill, of course. A new ability. So we've seen down through Breakthrough before. Purge Soul. Deals direct damage. This damage is increased by 50% against Xenos, by 100% against Chaos Worshippers or Drukhari, by 150% against demons, and by 50% if the enemy has already damaged a Psyker or any of the Psyker's allies this combat. These damage bonuses also affect any damage bonuses from other sources. This power does not affect targets that lack souls. Light of the Emperor. All allies affected by Word of the Emperor are healed for however many wounds. The psychic power can only be used while there is at least one ally affected by Word of the Emperor. Hammer of the Emperor. All allies affected by Word of the Emperor gain the Hammer of the Emperor effect. Next time they deal damage, this damage is increased and the effect is removed. Shield of the Emperor. Until the start of the Psyker's next turn, all allies affected by Word of the Emperor increase their deflection and armor. Sword of Faith. The psychic power costs 50 momentum and can only be used when momentum is 175 or higher. Until the end of combat, the weapon in the Psyker's hand is replaced by a sword made of sheer will. This sword has a single target attack and an area attack, like a two-handed sword. It can be used to release a cone of fire or in a line of fire, like a flamer. The damage of this sword is the same as that of Purge Soul, with all the same bonuses. If the Psyker used a force weapon, all the bonuses from that force weapon remain. For the purposes of talents and other bonuses, The Sword of Faith counts as a force weapon. That sounds really cool. What's the requirement for this? Psi rating 3. Okay. Well, we'll have to get to that. Enfeeble. Until the end of combat, let's skip around here. I can't do it by Psyker School. Well, Enfeeble. Until the end of combat, all targets within the area suffer penalty to strength and agility, and percent increase to all incoming damage. Invigorate. Restores wounds to the target. If this ability brings the target to full wounds, this power also removes all stunned, bleeding, fatigued, blinded, immobilized, staggered, and fresh injury effects from the target. Metabolic Overcharge. The target ally immediately gains an extra turn with twice the number of their normal MP and Psyker Psi rating AP, but their organism is subjected to severe stress, making them suffer 5% of their maximum wounds damage at the end of each turn until the end of combat. Every action the target makes during this extra turn will also trigger this damage. Regeneration. Until the end of combat, the target recovers wounds at the beginning of each of their turns. It removes one toxin, stunned, immobilized, bleeding, blinded, staggered, or fatigued effect. If the target has several effects, the removed effect is selected randomly. And Warp Speed. Until the end of combat, the target ally increases their MP, their agility, and their AP by 1. Yeah, so I want to prioritize Sword of Faith. But like I said, I'm going to focus more on damaging with him, though he has a lot of healing effects and other support abilities. I'm going to go with Reckless Strike. The warrior's next melee attack gains percent armor penetration and damage and ignores percent of the target's parry. Every enemy who survives an attack enhanced by this ability will attack the warrior in return, including creatures with ranged weapons. We'll lean into Lord Xenos with him. He is Ordos Xenos after all. More weapon skill. Might as well grab Biophysical Distortion. It's free damage. So all the Psyker's attacks, including attacking psychic powers, now poison enemies. This poison deals 3+3 times Psi rating toxic damage at the start of each of the enemy's turns. More Lore Xenos. I could see Contempt being good. Strange Vitality would work, because he has that one ability that affects everybody till the end of combat. It gives them, I believe, toughness and something else. So this would last until the end of combat. Stronger Together, this would give everybody in the party a bonus to strength. So all allies, excluding Xenos in the current party, gain +5 to the same characteristic as was chosen for Humanity's Finest, which for him was strength. Yeah, let's go with Daring Breach Upgrade 4. This turn, melee attacks deal an additional, or just deal additional damage. Alright, let's boost his Psi rating, because I'm trying to get to that sword ability as soon as possible. Strength here. Yeah, Sword of Faith. I really want that. Why would I want breakthrough when I have charge? Does not provoke an attack of opportunity. We could also do Purge Soul. It's just damage up to 12 cells away. And Dueling Mastery. Strength again. Athletics, since he's going to be going strength. I think that makes the most sense.
I have a nose for profit and a taste for adventure.
Ready for data input.
The Emperor sets my path.
Alright. Well, I'm going to call it here. Next time we will continue exploring the Cenobium. We got a little off track with Heinrix. Actually, let's equip him real quick. Does have a Force Sword. I'm not going to swap that out. The sword deals an additional plus psi rating damage. So we do want to prioritize boosting his psi rating as much as we can. Also has an auto pistol and a Biomancer's Staff. The wielder of this staff, power level 6, gains the Sci-Fi Life ability. The ability is also available in its Heroic Act and Desperate Measures versions. Power level affects the damage and healing level of this power, and plus 10 willpower. Alright, so we give him some bonus armor. Maybe the Resolve instead. This is pretty good. Especially if he's a damage dealer. They're less likely to dodge his attack. Armor-wise, he has a flak vest on. We could probably do better. Yeah, the flak armor was a straight upgrade. Actually, what is, maybe give him the flak armor instead. I'll give him the chainmail just because. And we won't be swapping out the Force Sword, but the ranged weapon could be something else. Like the Heirloom Auto Pistol. That gives him a free dual weapon combat talent. That is 7 to 12 damage. 8 to 16. I'll do that instead. Let's go and finish clearing out this room. The fighter's body is still warm. He only bled to death a few minutes ago.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
The hard, uncomfortable somno meditation bed is equipped with neural ports to connect the sleeper to the monastery's cogitator network. We just found an improved armored body glove.
Let us not dawdle.
Nice. A symbol for the Omnissiah is inscribed on the wall, with grooves of electric discharges fanning out from it like a river. Other armor and a charge staff. The wielder of the staff, power level 9, gains the Lightning Arc ability. The ability is also available in its Heroic Act and Desperate Measures version. A power level affects the damage of this power plus 10 willpower. Well, that'd be good on Adira, I think. I mean, it'd be fine on him as well, but... I'm going to keep him with the self-heal ability instead. We got leather armor as well, which is new. How does that compare? Same as chainmail, except for the base armor property, plus 5% armor against human enemies. So it is a little better.
I always keep my options open.
Alright, let's change my formation and then I'll wrap up the episode.
Always keep your eye on the prize.
Alright, I'm going to call it here, and next time we'll continue through the Cenobium and see what trouble we can't find. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.